Hello, good morning, Sitaram, and welcome to another program in the series Addiction and Recovery. I'm your host, Ramnaresh Dwarika, and let me just remind our brothers and sisters listening in Trinidad and Tobago, up the Caribbean, and wherever those of you who are tuned in on social media, that this program is being recorded and will be posted soon after the completion of the program this morning on YouTube and Facebook. And so that those of you who are unable to stay with the program for its entirety, you will be able to uh, look at it on YouTube and Facebook. And you can also refer the link to anyone who you believe could benefit from this program. The program will also be repeated again at 10 p.m. tonight on radio and TV Jagriti. So for those of you who are at work and unable to follow the program at this point, you can also access it there. You can listen to it there. And you may be able to post your comments on Facebook or YouTube, and I would be happy to respond to them. So this morning we have been, for the last 2 weeks we have been speaking, well, last week actually, we started the whole topic of the challenges that are faced by teenagers, because that is where it starts for most people in their teenage years. We know, especially in Trinidad and Tobago, the research has shown that the average age for addiction to marijuana and cocaine is 16 years, which is very early, while the average age for alcohol addiction is 35, 36, thereabout. And so most people, however, although they would have become compulsive and addicted by age 35 for alcohol, they would have already started way before the age of 16. I would like to refer to a survey that I was part of, a team done under the auspices of the National Alcohol and Drug Abuse Prevention Program, a branch of the Trinidad and Tobago government, way back in the 1990s. And what we realized was that by age 10, most students in the elementary schools had already tasted alcohol in some form or the other. And I could identify with that as well because I myself got a taste of alcohol at a pretty young age. I was just about 6 or 7, and I got some cherry brandy for Christmas. And nobody saw that as a big problem. But the fact is, I still remember that, the effect of that up to today. And it was an experience I cherished as a young man. And it caused me to look forward to the day when I could be able to take a drink for myself. And that did happen eventually when I reached about 17, 18, and I earned my own salary and so on. I did not have any parental supervision. I had moved into the world of work. And that was the beginning of that journey into addiction. So that this is why this is a really inexhaustive topic that has generated a lot of interest. A lot of people who have looked at the program last week called and were indicating, their interest. And as I say that, this weekend, that is March 23rd, which is Sunday coming, I will be part of a panel speaking on the challenges of teenagers in various aspects of life. Especially I will be focused on drug addiction in particular. And this will be happening at the Diwali Nagar at 10 a.m. on Sunday, and it's open to the public. Of course, you'll have to call the NCIC and register for the program. And you could get that information from me after this program. You can call and get the information. But let me just quickly list some of these I would have spoken about last week. Some of the challenges, teenagers face numerous challenges when it comes to drug addiction, which can have a profound effect on their physical, emotional, and social well-being. And here are some of the key challenges. One is peer pressure. You know, a lot of people are aware of this. The first thing, even the old people will tell you, you know, birds of a feather flock together. Watch the friends you keep. Show me your friends, and I'll tell you who you are. All of these sayings is rooted in the fact that that friends at this stage of our developmental life, they have a profound effect on us. You know, it is a time when we are moving from being a child into becoming an adult. That's a transition period. And it is a time when there's a tendency to revolt against authority. It is the time parents will tell you they have the greatest difficulty managing their children. They call it the generation gap, you know, where, you know, and I remember that if in my days at age 15, 16, and so on, if my father was cutting his hair short, I would grow mine long. And if they were wearing baggy pants, you know, fat pants as we call them, we would go for gun mouth. You know, those were there's a tendency to try, and that is not because of rebellion in per se, but it is because as a child, one is developing an identity of their own. And this don't only happen for boys, it happens for girls as well. There's a tendency to now start to develop an identity of our own, to question what we were told. This whole thing about do as I say and not as I do causes a lot of confusion in our minds because, you know, our parents are telling us we should not smoke cigarettes or take or drink, while we see them and the neighbors and all the adults in our circle of friends and family drinking and smoking. So children are confused, as I was, in fact, you know, and I couldn't wait for the day when I would have my own money and I would be able to make those decisions myself. And it did. The truth is, most of us did not wait till that day. We would hide and do it so that when we went to the river to bathe the group of boys, somebody would have cigarettes and they would take it out and light it up. They would have stolen it from the father who smoked, you know, or they would have a drink in a little bag hide up and take it out, and we would go through the motions that the adults were going through. So that peer pressure is very influential at that stage. It is a time when we tend to listen to our friends more than we would care to listen to our parents because we hear them over. They're like a stock, a broken record, you know, and we actually verbalize these things. Sometimes we don't say it to their face, but behind their back. You know, we look forward to the day when we could escape that kind of supervision and enjoy a certain level of independence. And sad to say, a lot of children, and I've seen it happen particularly with girls, choose to run off or get married just to escape because the boyfriend is, you know, promising them that when we are together, you know, while they're dating, it's all sunshine and roses and all of that, not realizing that, you know, the time after marriage, there are some things that happen, and most of the time unplanned. You start having children, and a lot of girls and boys were not prepared for that. The boys still think, well, look, I could go on living like a bachelor, although I'm married, and I have a wife there now in the house. Anytime I want, I have access to intimacy. But aside from that, I want to still be able to line with the boys and do all the other things, and we know what follows from that. The young girls these days who are getting married, they're not like my grandmother and father and mother and so on that will take a lot of nonsense from their husbands. Most of them are employed and they're independent, and they are not going to stay around and deal with rejection and abuse and neglect and all that kind of thing. They're going to move on, and divorce is becoming less and less stigmatized. If we look at the developed countries, the divorce rates are very high. And in Trinidad and Tobago, the Indian community, that tendency to want to stick with your husband in spite of whatever is being eroded, and girls are moving on, and no one can blame them, because I will not advise, even though when I counsel people, I would not advise anyone, man or woman, to stay in an abusive relationship. So that the influence of friends is very profound when it comes to the development, the decisions that young people make at that point in time. And there's a very high propensity to experiment now. There's a lot of people, because of the rebellious nature, if you tell them not to do something as parents, that's when they want to prove to themselves, look, I could do it. If you tell a young man, "Oh, look, don't drink, don't smoke, this could happen," you point out certain people who they know who fell by the way, fell through the cracks, as we say. And young people, it's always back of our heads, at that age. No, 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 I'm not that stupid. That is not going to happen with me. We all seem to think that. So that, you know, I'm talking to all the parents out there this morning. When you want to understand your child, your teenage son or daughter, I want you to, it is very, very enlightening sometimes, to go back to when you were their age, just for a minute in your mind's eye, and remember how you used to be. And it's a very sobering experience, because we tend to forget, and we're only looking at the young man who is being, and sometimes we, say it out loud, boy, you lucky, you don't have a father like mine, you know. But that's a confession that I have given my son so much, or daughter so much liberty now, that I give them so much long rope, as we say in Trinidad, and now I can't pull it back. I can't take it back. And we do it with all good intention, that I don't want my child, my son, or my daughter to suffer, the consequences that I had, because I felt my parents were very strict and harsh with me and so on, and did not spare the rod. I'm not going to do that to my child. And so we cut them a lot of slack. We give them a lot of liberties, and then eventually realize, but wait, because of our love for them, we compromised on the discipline, only to find that they have become very, very truant. They are now not able to economize. They don't learn the value of money. The the appetite for spending is going through the roof, and we cannot continue to support it. And our children, they learn, rather than work hard and wait, postpone gratification. They rather become experts at manipulating us. But that's all they have to do, learn how to get mommy and daddy to do what they want. And then, what happened? Mommy and daddy resign from the job. They don't have the income anymore. They are on a pension, and they cannot continue to subvent us. And then we become bitter, because we realize all of those days, because this kind of parenting does not only stop when you get married. I know parents, or most parents I know, continue to be parents until their children are grandparents themselves. If they're around, they still are supportive. And the children, even though they are grandparents, they still coming to expect that the mother and father should have provided the house and the land and the car and everything for them, as they used to while they were alive, or while they were gainfully employed in business and so on. And now, when the parents are no longer around, they are turning around and blaming mother and father for really messing up their life and not providing for them, even at this stage, not taking responsibility for themselves. I speak to a lot of people, even family members very often, who have found themselves in that position. And it's really a sorry situation, because the parents were doing it out of their love, and they could have afforded to do it. And so they give the children the land, but they couldn't build a house, let's say. And now the children are blaming them. Well, they build house for this one and the other one, and did not build for me. And I know I'm straying a little bit here, but I'm superimposing the whole question of taking responsibility for self, the rebelliousness that happens in teenage life. These are some of the challenges that, if not addressed properly, can lead not only to drug addiction, but irresponsibility. And this is what would perpetuate drug addiction eventually. I've heard many an addicted person blaming, they down into the pits of addiction and still continuing to blame their parents for their state because he didn't send me away to study like the rest of them. He didn't give me the property, or always scapegoated me, did not treat me equal. So long as any human being continue to blame others for their condition, they are stuck. The only time you will be able to pull yourself out of that morass is when you start taking responsibility for yourself. So let me end this segment by saying, whoever you are, wherever you are, however you are today, is because of the choices that you have made. The same thing happens with all individuals. It is the choices that I have made in my life that has brought me to where I am today. And if I continue to blame others for my condition, I will not be able to ever get out of it. So let me end by saying, I credit a good friend of mine. His name was Ganesh. He's passed on, but he always said, it is simple to be happy. It is simple to be happy, but it is very difficult to be simple. So in the next segment, we probably start off with that and look at how to find that happiness without having to use drugs. So we thank you for listening so far, and I'll see you in the next part.